All right, ready to dive deep into some psychological theories of human nature. We've got excerpts from a book on social cognitive theory, and I'm really curious to get your philosophical take on these.
Oh, I'm ready. It's fascinating how psychology tries to explain those age-old questions, about what makes us tick, using
Hmm.
scientific methods and all.
Right. So first up, a theory you probably know something about, psychodynamic theory. All those ideas about our unconscious drives and conflicts shaping how we act. Like, think Freud.
Ah, yes, Freud. His work has been hugely influential, no doubt, but it's definitely come under a lot of scrutiny over the years.
Exactly. And our source material really gets into those criticisms. Like it points out how psychodynamic theory often uses kind of circular reasoning. It says someone's angry, so they must have this like hidden aggressive impulse. But isn't that just describing what you see on the surface, not really explaining it?
That's a key point, yeah. Are we really getting to the root cause or just labeling behavior? And how do we verify those unconscious drives, right? If they're unconscious, how can we prove they exist? It gets tricky.
It does. And our source also points out how this theory struggles to explain why we act differently in different situations. Like, I'm sure you're not the same at a philosophy conference as you are at, say, a rock concert.
Huh. Definitely not. Context is crucial, and just saying it's these, fixed unconscious drives seems to miss all that nuance.
Totally. Our source also criticizes those classic projective tests, the ink blots and all that. It turns out they aren't so reliable in predicting real-life behavior.
Yeah, those ink blot interpretations are fun to think about, but in terms of solid scientific ground, maybe not so much.
Maybe not. And speaking of shaky ground, the source also questions how effective those insight-based therapies are. The whole talk it out to uncover hidden conflicts approach. Apparently, they haven't consistently shown that they lead to lasting changes in behavior.
That's a big issue, right? If understanding our unconscious doesn't really lead to change, then, well, what does that say about the theory's practical use? It really makes you question the nature of the unconscious and how much it really controls our choices.
Okay, so maybe psychodynamic theory isn't looking so great under the microscope. But don't worry, we're just getting started. Let's move on to trait theory. This one suggests that our behavior is mostly determined by our personality traits, those stable aspects of ourselves we carry across different situations. Like someone who's introverted will always prefer a quiet night, over a big party.
Yeah, I see the appeal. It's simple, right? We like to categorize and see consistent patterns, but as our source points out, the reality is more complex. For example, studies show there's a pretty weak correlation between those personality measures and how we actually behave.
So those personality quizzes we love, they might be fun, but they don't really predict how we'll act in real life.
Hmm, makes you think about the idea of fixed personality traits.
It does. And our source also criticizes trait research for, like, averaging behaviors and situations. It misses the natural variations in how we act. It's like trying to understand a symphony by only listening to its average volume. You miss all the detail. Yeah, that makes sense. And then there's the fact that trait theory relies a lot on self-reports, which, well, can be pretty subjective, right? We all have blind spots about ourselves, so how much can we trust those personality assessments?
Right. We don't always see ourselves accurately. And, we might even unconsciously answer in a way that presents a certain image. So, yeah, relying solely on self-reported data to understand personality is tricky.
Okay, so we've seen some cracks in psychodynamic and trait theories. Now get ready for a totally different approach.
Mm.
Radical behaviorism. It completely ignores internal mental states and focuses just on external factors, rewards, and punishments shaping our behavior.
Yes, the stimulus response model. This might get interesting, especially from a philosophical perspective. Radical behaviorism argues that our thoughts are essentially just byproducts of conditioning. They don't really have any power to cause things. We're like machines responding to input, no free will involved.
Wow, that's a bold statement. And our source definitely pushes back on that. They point to evidence suggesting that actually our thoughts and expectations play a crucial role in how we interpret and react to those external consequences.
Exactly. It's not just about the reward or punishment itself. It's how we see it, how it fits into our beliefs and values. Like, imagine a child gets praise for a drawing. How they react depends on whether they think it's genuine praise or just a way to manipulate them.
So even in radical behaviorism, those pesky thoughts creep back in. And our source highlights another issue. This overemphasis on past experiences, on what they call the history of reinforcement. It ignores our ability to learn from others, to imagine the future, even to come up with completely new ideas.
Right. We aren't just robots replaying the past. We have this incredible capacity for imagination, creativity, thinking ahead, all things that radical behaviorism doesn't seem to account for very well.
Okay, so we've seen some pros and cons with each theory so far. But now brace yourself for what our source presents as a more, well, complete and well-supported alternative.
Mm.
Social cognitive theory.
Now, this is where things get really interesting, I think, especially from a philosophical perspective. You see, social cognitive theory, it doesn't just focus on internal drives or external rewards and punishments. It proposes this kind of dynamic interplay between our thoughts, our environment, and our behaviors.
It's not either. It's like all these things are happening at once. A three-way dance.
Exactly. It's this idea of triadic reciprocal causation. Our behavior isn't just determined by our personality or our environment. It's this ongoing loop where each element is both a cause and an effect.
So it's not just what happens to us. It's how we understand those things.
Oh, yeah.
The choices we make, the actions we take.
Exactly. And I find this emphasis on human agency really fascinating. We're not just, pawns of fate. We actively shape our own lives.
That sounds a lot like existentialism, right?
Yeah.
This idea that we're always creating ourselves through our choices, our actions.
Absolutely. And social cognitive theory highlights some key abilities that make this agency possible, like our ability to symbolize, which means forming mental representations of the world around us. This lets us think abstractly, plan for the future.
That's what separates us from other animals.
Right.
That ability to detach from immediate stimuli and think about things beyond our immediate experience.
Right. And that goes hand in hand with forethought, the ability to anticipate consequences, set goals, make plans. We're not just reacting to the present. We're actively shaping our future.
It's like we're running simulations in our minds, trying out different scenarios, making decisions based on those projections. But of course, things don't always go according to plan. And that's where our source brings up this interesting concept of fortuitous determinants.
Yes. The role of chance encounters, unexpected events, all those things shaping our paths. It might seem like this challenges the idea of agency, but social cognitive theory has a nuanced take on this.
So even when those unexpected things throw us off course, we still have choices in how we respond.
Exactly. Those chance encounters can open up new doors, introduce us to new ideas, even push us in directions we never would have considered. Think about that time you stumbled upon a philosophy lecture, totally random, and it completely changed your course of study.
That's a perfect example. And our source has all these stories about how those serendipitous moments can have a huge impact, like the story of Paul Watkins. He just happened to visit a friend's cabin, and it led him into the Manson family, that whole unsettling world.
It's a reminder that not all those chance meetings are positive, and it shows how our values, our beliefs, they really shape how we react to those unexpected situations.
It's like those chance events are the wild cards in life, and it's up to us how we play them. But our source also points out that some environments can really influence how we respond to these things, especially those that are kind of closed off, with a lot of control and reward.
Like cults, for example. They often attract people who are looking for meaning, belonging, a sense of purpose. And once they're in these tight-knit communities, their values, their beliefs, they can be heavily influenced by the group's ideology.
It's like stepping into a different reality, where the rules of the outside world don't apply. And even those everyday social circles, our families, our friends, our workplaces, they have a big influence on our choices and actions, too.
Of course. We're navigating these social currents all the time, absorbing values and norms from the groups we identify with. It's a reminder that individual agency always exists within a social context. We're never really acting in isolation.
So this is back and forth between personal agency and social influence. We shape our environment, and our environment shapes us.
Precisely. And understanding that dynamic is so important for individual well-being, for creating positive social change. But let's shift gears for a moment to a question that always comes up when we talk about chance and influence. The big philosophical question of freedom and determinism.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, right? It's the idea of, how much control we really have.
Yeah.
Social cognitive theory offers an interesting perspective, though, I think, especially for a philosopher. You see, it doesn't deny all those influences on us, our biology, how we were raised, the systems we live in. But it also says, even with all that, we still have a surprising ability to direct our own lives.
So it's not about having absolute freedom, but more like making choices within, the boundaries of our lives.
Exactly. And those core human capabilities we talked about, those are key. Our ability to, create mental symbols, think in abstract ways, imagine future possibilities. Those are the tools that let us act with intention, make choices that match our values and goals.
It's like we're playing cards. We don't get to choose the hand we're dealt, but we do get to decide how to play it.
Perfect analogy. And how we play, it's influenced by, well, understanding the rules, the strategies we've learned, even how we read the other players.
So it's a mix of skill, knowledge, being strategic. But what about those times we make choices that don't make sense, or even seem self-destructive? How does social cognitive theory explain that?
It recognizes that we don't always make the best choices, of course. We can be swayed by biases, emotions, even those unconscious patterns from earlier, but it stresses how important self-awareness is and self-regulation to make choices that are more, well, intentional.
So it's not just about knowing what influences us, but about getting better at making choices that actually lead to what we want long term.
Right. That's where self-reflection and self-regulation come in. We can look at our own thought patterns, see where we might be sabotaging ourselves, and find ways to make more deliberate choices.
Okay, so it's about understanding ourselves, but also about improving our ability to make good choices. But our source goes further. They say this idea of agency, it matters for society too, not just individuals.
It's a fascinating connection. So instead of trying to control people's behavior from the outside, we focus on empowering them to create change themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Like, think about successful social movements, fighting injustice. They often use these same ideas, people experiencing their own power by acting together, seeing inspiring role models, having a sense of shared purpose, and dealing with things like fear, apathy that stop people from engaging.
It's like a blueprint for social change, grounded in this understanding of human agency, the power of collective action. But a question that pops up for me is, are there any, downsides to this focus on agency? Could it make society too individualistic? Like, we ignore those who are struggling and just blame them for their problems.
It's a good point, and our
Yeah.
source does acknowledge that. They say developing individual agency needs to go along with fostering a sense of social responsibility. We have to care about the well-being of everyone.
Right. It can't just be about me and my goals. It's about seeing how we're all connected and working towards a world where everyone can thrive.
Makes sense. But then there's also the issue of, safeguards. Because even though empowering individuals is important, we also need systems to protect people from, manipulation, exploitation, people who might use this knowledge about human behavior for bad reasons.
Definitely. We've talked about how advertising, propaganda, even subtle social pressures can shape us without us realizing. The more we understand psychology, the bigger the risk that it gets misused.
So it's like a constant balancing act, right? Making sure our knowledge of human behavior is used ethically, responsibly.
Exactly. And this conversation needs to happen everywhere. Psychologists, philosophers, policymakers, everyday people, we all need to be involved in figuring out how to navigate this whole complex area of human agency.
Well, this deep dive has given me a lot to think about, that's for sure. It's encouraging to see how social cognitive theory explains both the limits and the possibilities of our agency, and how that understanding can help us grow as individuals and create a better society.
I agree. It's a great reminder that we're not just passively watching our lives and the world unfold. We can learn, adapt, make choices, and create change.
And that's a powerful message for everyone. Thanks for taking us on this journey. It's been really fascinating.
My pleasure. And to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive inspires you to explore your own potential, the incredible ability we all have to shape our own lives and make the world a better place.